The most fatal form of all firearm injuries in humans is a gunshot wound to the head. It has a mortality rate greater than 90%. At least 4 out of 5 victims perish before reaching the hospital. Now, the degree and type of damage to the skull caused by the headshot highly depend on factors such as the velocity and caliber of the bullet, the angle of entry, and the distance. When a gun is fired towards the head, the bullet breaks into the outer layer of the skull, known as the cranium, and enters the brain tissue. Once the bullet breaches the skull, it creates a small entrance wound. The impact causes the skull to crack either away or around the point of impact. High-velocity bullets, such as those fired from rifles, can cause more damage than lower-velocity projectiles like those from handguns. The shape of the bullet also determines how easily it can penetrate. The human skull is composed of several bones that are joined together to protect the brain. Biologically, it is designed to withstand moderate external forces, but not the high-velocity impacts of a bullet. Technically, when a bullet is traveling through the barrel of a rifle, it begins to spin around its longitudinal axis. This spiral effect stabilizes the flight of the bullet, ensuring greater accuracy and maintaining a straight course. Upon entering the skull, the bullet's kinetic energy and rotation produce a shock wave, which creates a temporal cavity that is up to 30 times larger than the actual diameter of the bullet, rapidly moving the brain tissue apart. This is why the entry point of the bullet in all gunshot wounds is much smaller than their exit point. When the bullet fractures the skull, it often causes bone fragments to scatter. These fragments can be displaced inside the brain, causing further damage. Now, a headshot is almost 100% fatal when the bullet travels toward a specific part of the head, which is recognized by the security forces as the T-box. This is the human face. The T-box covers the entire nose and some part of the eyes. The nose and the eyes are not the target organs. However, what lies behind these organs? The T-box houses the lower section of the brain. It is responsible for autonomic functions like breathing and heartbeat. A severe trauma to this part of the brain means sudden suffocation and cessation of the heart all at once. Death usually occurs within few seconds after the gunshot. The model and type of the firearm also determines the severity of the wound. Bullets from rifles usually create a wound at a specific point on the skull. However, shotguns discharge multiple pellets at a lower velocity than rifles. Pellet wounds tend to be dispersed, causing multiple punches and less concentrated skull damage, while a slug can create a massive localized destruction. Shotgun blast can cause the skull to scatter entirely, depending on the range and type of load used. When a bullet is traveling towards the head, one of these 4 situations usually occur. The first situation is deflection, which is when the bullet bounces off the skull, leaving behind just a little scratch. The second situation is when the bullet manages to penetrate the skull, but loses majority of its energy and stops inside the skull. The third situation that may occur is when the bullet passes cleanly through the skull. A bullet that passes cleanly through the skull can lead to less overall damage. The last situation that may occur is the ricocheting of the bullet. This is when the bullet strikes the inner surface of the skull at an angle and changes direction. This can result in additional internal injuries as the bullet bounces within the cranial cavity. Penetrating brain injuries causes immediate bleeding. Depending on the direction, the bullet can tear major blood vessels. The initial mechanical damage is followed by inflammation and swelling of the brain. Damage to specific regions of the brain can cause a variety of neurological deficits, depending on the area affected. Injury to the frontal lobes can impair judgment and personality. Not all gunshots to the head are fatal. However, survival is extremely rare. The chances of surviving a gunshot wound to the head depend on several factors. Gunshots that avoid major blood vessels, brainstem, or other critical structures might allow the victim to survive. The frontal lobes, for instance, while essential for higher cognitive functions, can sustain damage without immediate life-threatening consequences. Rapid medical attention can control bleeding and swelling, increasing the chances of survival, though the victim may still suffer permanent disabilities.